Welcome to the LDN radio show, brought to you by the LDN Research Trust. I'm your host, Linda Elsiegood. I have an exciting lineup of guest speakers who are LDN experts in their field. We will be discussing low-dose naltrexone and its many uses in autoimmune diseases, cancers, etc. Thank you for joining us.
Today we're joined by Kim from the United States, who uses LDN for Hashimotos and Sjogren syndrome. Thank you for joining us today, Kim.
Thank you for having me. Very happy to be here.
So can you tell us, what was your life like before you got sick?
Before I got sick, I was pretty active. I was outside a lot. I loved hiking, and I was actually doing CrossFit, heavy weightlifting and various athletic activities like that, and just loved being outside, walking my dogs. And then that kind of all changed when I got sick. Yeah.
So how old were you when that happened?
This just started about 3 years ago, or so. Yeah, right during the height of the COVID pandemic in 2020 was when I got sick.
So what did you notice?
I had noticed that actually prior to that period, I had actually had some bouts with oral cancer, where I had cancer on my tongue, and it was due to dry mouth, and we never found the trigger. We didn't know what was causing that. So I had 5 surgeries to remove that. And that was in my mid-20s, and my first surgery was when I was 32. But like I said, we didn't know what triggered that until I was just diagnosed with Sjogren's disease in 2022. And we figured it was probably related to that. But as far as 3 years ago, I got a bout of COVID pretty bad, when it was kind of just, coming into fruition there. And then I noticed that I was having even more severe dry eyes, severe dry mouth, lots and lots of joint pain, to the point where I felt like I was constantly getting the flu or having the flu, battling it. I was having low-grade fevers. I was had chills, debilitating fatigue. Like I have a computer job, and I was unable to do that computer job even at home. That's how sick and fatigued and everything that I was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So at that point, if you had to rate your quality of life on a score of 1 to 10, 10 being the best, what would it have been?
It was about a 2. I was out of work on medical leave for a while. I was pretty much just getting out of bed to get my son to school and taking care of my dogs, and I had to hire somebody to clean my house because I couldn't even do that. And I was just, it seemed like there was just no hope. I felt like I was getting sicker and sicker, and we were trying to, run tests and find remedies and solutions, and trying one medication after another that didn't really do anything or had terrible side effects. And it was awful.
Mm-hmm. And how easy was it to get a prescription for LDN?
It was quite easy, actually, because I started seeing functional medicine doctors here in the US. And when I told her that I was taking hydroxychloroquine at the time, but it wasn't, it kind of helped, but just a little bit, kind of took the edge off, but it still wasn't giving me my quality of life back. And she says, what are your main complaints? And I said, the joint pain and the debilitating fatigue. And she says, what if I can give you something that will take care of both of those? And I was like, yes, please. She said LDN, yes.
Wow. So how long ago was that? You said it was 3 years when you first got sick, but how long did it take you to find this doctor?
To find this doctor and get that diagnosis and get on LDN was September 2022. So I haven't even been on it for a year quite yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what did you notice initially? Did you have any side effects?
I have some minor ones, and it turned out to be just due to the filler of the LDN that I was getting. I'm very sensitive to medications and drugs, and because I had been so sick, my system had kind of thrown me into that hyperhistamine state where you have MCAs going on. So I was like rolling off just allergic reactions to everything. So I when I had my LDN initially filled with the microcrystalline cellulose, that is what I reacted to. So I felt pretty bad for a while until we figured that out. And then I was able to switch my filler to ginger root. And I didn't have any problems with that at all. I think there was maybe some minor headaches at first, and I had started taking the LDN at night, but then I switched to morning dosing, and that seemed to work better for me as well. So those were the only minor things. And since then, it's been smooth sailing.
Okay. So how long did it take before you noticed any improvement?
I literally noticed improvements in my energy and my sleep within 3 days. And then even a couple weeks later is when the joint pain started feeling much better already. And within 3 months, I felt like a brand new person. I was able to say that I was joint pain free. My fatigue was pretty much gone. I was able to go back to work. I was able to clean my house again. And I'll do the fun dog walking stuff I've wanted to do, and just slowly start getting back into the life I knew.
Mm-hmm. Did you have to change your diet and take supplements or anything?
Um, I had already changed to be gluten-free and dairy-free a couple of years back when I was, just noticing some gut issues going on. I didn't change anything else otherwise. No, it just seemed that yeah, just continuing to do gluten-free and dairy-free and just taking the LDN has seemed to improve everything.
Mm-hmm. And what would you say your life is now on a score of 1 to 10?
It's closer to about a 7.58. I'm it's since it's only been September, it's what, not quite 9 months yet, almost 9 months. But I'm still slowly trying to get back into doing more activity, losing some weight that I have gained and things like that, and just trying to, yeah, make sure, because autoimmune diseases are tricky, make sure I don't overdo it just enough that I throw myself into a flare. But I did notice that even when I do maybe go into an autoimmune flare, they are much short-lived than they used to be. So it's like, okay, I see what's happening, let's take it easy. And it seems like the LDN has calmed everything down, including me having those reactions, histamine reactions to all kinds of weird things that I never had before. It seems to have just really calmed my whole system down.
Mm-hmm. And you said that you're in the US. Which state are you in?
I am in Ohio.
In Ohio. Okay. I was just curious. What would you say to other people who were who are in that awful place that you were in before you heard of LDN? What advice, what would you have told yourself if
Yeah.
you could go back?
Yes, it's funny because I had actually been told about LDN approximately a year before I actually got prescribed it by a friend of a friend, on Facebook, and I was like, oh, that sounds interesting. I should probably look into it, and I didn't, and I could just kick myself because, yeah, I could have been feeling so much better a year sooner. Um, and I know I'm actually part of some of the LDN support groups on Facebook as well. And I see people in there posting a lot saying, I finally got my prescription to LDN, but I'm afraid to start taking it. I'm, all this stuff. And all I would like to say is just don't be afraid. Just try it. The worst that can happen is you might have a little bit of insomnia or a little bit of headaches for a little while, but there's virtually no side effects. It's a game-changing drug that can help you really get your life back. And if you can't find a doctor to give it to you, there's other ways you can go through online to get it. Through like Ageless RX is one that we have here in the US that will have a doctor prescribe it for you. But yeah, don't hesitate. When somebody mentions it, as soon as you learn about it, look into it and give it a try.
So, having Hashimoto's, I should think you had high antibodies
I did,
back in the
yes.
day. What are those antibodies like now?
So when I first was diagnosed with Hashimoto's in 2021, they were 725. And then throughout the next year, before I was actually diagnosed with Sjogren's and was getting sicker and sicker, they went up to 13,000. Yes, it was. As soon as I saw that number, I was like, they messed up the test. It had to be wrong. But unfortunately, it wasn't. So since I've started LDN, I have dropped those antibodies down now to about 1,260. So they're still very high, but coming down from 13,000 in 7 months, that's huge. So yes.
Oh, that's good. And you were saying about the fatigue. I mean, how many hours were you sleeping before LDN?
Yeah, and the fatigue. So I was still sleeping. I was sleeping about 8 hours, roughly average every night. Just given my schedule, I really couldn't sleep much more. But I was also having to take a nap every day. Like there was just absolutely no day that I could get through without taking a nap. And then that could be 2 hours, 3 hours, and then I would, still be tired when I woke up. The fatigue was one of those kind where it doesn't really matter how much sleep you get. It's just pure, utter exhaustion. Yeah.
I remember that feeling.
Yes.
Going to bed thinking, oh, I'm just so tired if I have a good sleep. And then you wake up and it's just like, hey, I'm just as tired.
Right. Did I even sleep at all? Yeah.
Yeah. And your pain, I mean, was it mainly joint pain that you had?
Correct. Yes. Joint pain and muscle aches kind of, it felt like I initially went to the rheumatologist because I thought I had rheumatoid arthritis because it was particularly in my hands and my shoulders and my hips. And after he did some testing and some more assessing, we found out it was more like Sjogren's, which also has the same joint pain that rheumatoid arthritis does. So yeah, it was also muscle aches, kind of like that sick, always got the flu kind of feeling, or always battling it, fighting it off. Yeah.
Now your dry eye and dry mouth.
Yes.
How has that been, and how long did that take to improve?
Well, when I first noticed the symptoms, like I mentioned earlier, it was like in my mid-20s. I had told a dentist that I thought I had a salivary gland issue because that side of my mouth was always dry. So it's been going on for 20 years for me. When I had my first surgery for my tongue, that was when I was 32. So it's been about 15 years since I started with the dry mouth battle. But yeah, so during the year that I was very sick, 21, 22, before LDN, I was having to constantly either suck on mouth lozenges or mouth sprays, or there's like gels you can put in your mouth, like called Biotine, that helps soothe dry mouth and things like that, and lots of eye drops as well. And I can't remember the last time I've used them now, so it seems to have drastically improved everything.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Would you say your eyes are back to normal, whatever normal is?
I would say maybe just a dash under normal. So not perfect, but definitely much, much, much improved.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because it would be interesting, if your eye did become a problem, you can get LDN eye drops.
Oh.
So if you do ever try them, please let me know. I'd like to see how you get on.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'll have to look into that.
Yeah. And they also do an LDN nasal spray.
Okay.
Which should help with the eyes and the mouth.
Correct.
So,
yeah.
That could be
Interesting.
quite interesting. But if you don't have that as an issue now, then it's not relevant, is it?
Right. Well, good to keep in the back of my mind just in case. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it was really nice talking to you, and thank you very much for sharing your experience with us today.
You're very welcome. I'm glad I could be here. Thanks for having me.
Any questions or comments you may have, please email me, Linda, Linda, at ldnrt.org. I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you for joining us today. We really appreciated your company. Until next time, stay safe and keep well.